Extended quarantine for travellers who refuse to be swabbed. Victoria makes hotel testing mandatory as it steps up its fight against COVID-19. Cases in the state reach a 3-month high, but Australians are being told it's not the start of a second wave.
That's not what we're seeing at this time.
A new COVID-19 milestone reached in the United States. 2.5 million cases. The President spending the day on the golf course. And a 460 million year old fossil unearthed in Central Australia. Why the rare find is exciting scientists.
This is SBS World News with Janice Peterson.
Good evening. Victoria has ordered mandatory COVID-19 testing for all returned overseas travellers in quarantine as the state battles to keep its coronavirus spike in check. With another 49 new cases announced today, health authorities will also start taking less invasive saliva swabs to encourage more people to come forward for testing.
With up to 22,000 swabs a day during Victoria's testing blitz of coronavirus hotspots, new case numbers are still climbing.
Certainly numbers today are big and they've increased day on day, but you really need to wait 5 or 6 days to see in the numbers the effects of whatever interventions you've made.
One of those latest moves is compulsory testing for returned travellers in hotel quarantine. If they don't agree to a test on leaving, they'll be forced to remain in isolation for another 10 days, with the state government bearing the cost of the extended hotel stay.
Everybody who's leaving today has been tested, and everybody who leaves from now on, from right now, if they don't agree to a test, then they will be in our care for a total of 24 days, not 14 days. I don't think too many people are going to make that choice.
With evidence, some families have been reluctant to have children and the elderly submit to the nasal and throat swab test. Victoria will become the first state in Australia to take saliva samples only.
Certainly the saliva test has been validated as a very useful test with very good accuracy. How it measures up against the PCR nasal and throat swab test yet to be seen in this context, but it has a place. It won't be rolled out for absolutely everyone.
Of the 49 new cases reported, 4 are from known outbreaks. 26 have been detected through routine testing, with the other 19 under investigation. No new cases were reported in hotel quarantine. The new infection cases this weekend include a worker in the Royal Melbourne Hospital Emergency Department and a Metro Railway staffer at Flinders Street Station. There's also been a confirmed case of COVID-19 at SBS in Melbourne CBD. Staff have been advised that the office will reopen after a deep clean today. It all comes as more defence personnel are deployed to join the state's COVID-19 battle. While the Premier says the imposition of local lockdowns in suburban COVID-19 hotspots is still a possibility, he and health officials have cautioned against linking outbreaks with any particular cultural community.
OK team, let's go.
As door knockers hand out self-testing kits in 8 different languages.
This virus doesn't discriminate based on where you were born or whether you pray or not and to whom you pray. It is with all of us, and it is with all of us for a long time, and that's why we all have to work together to beat it.
With a strict warning, if Victorians don't do the right thing, the reopening of the state from lockdown could be put in jeopardy. Gareth Borum, SBS World News.
Well, despite the spike in Victoria, Australia's Deputy Chief Medical Officer says there is no second wave of COVID-19. It comes as the country recorded 53 new cases, a further 3 in New South Wales and 1 in Western Australia.
A 34-year-old cargo airline staff member, the latest confirmed case in New South Wales, testing positive this morning after falling ill during transit.
Close contacts have been identified and further investigations are currently underway.
It's not known which airline the staff member worked for, though it is among 3 new cases recorded in the state overnight. The other 2 are returned travellers, now in hotel quarantine. It comes as new rules for travellers come into effect tomorrow. New South Wales now also requiring anyone who refuses a swab to face a further 10 days in isolation. The potential for further community transmission also prompting another warning.
Anyone who returns from areas of concern in Melbourne should not attend settings where vulnerable people might be.
South Australia also expressing concern.
The numbers seem to be going up, not down. We've got 3 weeks until we consider opening those borders, but we won't be opening them if it's going to send South Australia backwards.
The state has had no new cases since May, though it's bracing for a potential influx among 280 repatriated travellers from India, placing the state's coronavirus-free streak in jeopardy. After their arrival yesterday, they'll be tested before exiting quarantine in 2 weeks' time, as the state prepares to ease more restrictions from tomorrow.
South Australians have been doing it tough. Now we see some light at the end of the tunnel, but we must remain vigilant.
Queenslanders will have to wait another 48 hours to know when and how restrictions in their state will be lifted, including when the border will reopen. Western Australia recorded 1 new infection, taking the state's active cases to 5. All are now in hotel quarantine. This, as the government's COVID Safe app has not helped find any extra contacts state authorities haven't already picked up, despite being downloaded by over 6 million Australians.
Please be assured that the app is working and is working well.
As fears of a second wave are downplayed.
This is not a second wave, this is an outbreak occurring, and the response which is occurring is very vigorous and appropriate.
Nakari Thorpe, SBS World News.
The United States has passed 2 staggering milestones as its coronavirus cases surge. The country now has in excess of 2.5 million confirmed cases, while more than 125,000 Americans have died from COVID-19.
A week out from Independence Day, the United States in the grip of COVID-19.
Well, right now, the scientists, the doctors tell us that on our current trajectory, our hospitals are going to be overwhelmed by mid-July.
Texas setting a record for hospitalizations for the 16th straight day. Its bars shut, the governor expressing his regrets.
If I could have done anything differently, it would have been to delay the opening of bars.
Florida recording 9,600 new infections in 24 hours, another record high. Its statewide ban on bars serving alcohol causing consternation.
All of a sudden, we can't even have a cocktail outside. I'm not even near anybody. This is really getting out of hand.
The message from Miami's mayor to those who refuse to wear a mask: get over it.
For us, we think it's the prudent thing to do. It's the right thing to do, and we're going to fine you if you don't do it.
New York, once the nation's viral epicenter, holding itself up as a model. The governor's daily tweet of hospitalizations continuing to track lower. Andrew Cuomo issuing an executive order denying paid sick leave to state employees who voluntarily travel to Florida and other high-risk states if they get coronavirus. A day after the Vice President made the case for liberty.
Even in a health crisis, the American people don't forfeit our constitutional rights.
Mike Pence postponing campaign events in Florida and Arizona out of an abundance of caution.
And I won't forget.
The Washington Post revealing that ahead of the president's Arizona rally last weekend, his campaign directed the removal of thousands of stickers reading "Please don't sit here," stickers designed to encourage social distancing. The president playing golf on Saturday, the Democrat who wants his job chiding him.
This is a war he talks about, a war against this virus. Yet he's AWOL. He does not take any responsibility. He's leaving it to the states.
President Trump did tweet on health matters: "I will always protect people with pre-existing conditions. Always, always, always." In fact, the Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to strike down Obamacare. If it wins, up to 23 million Americans could lose their health insurance. Prue Luan, SBS World News.
The pandemic has reached troubling new heights in the world's second most populated country. India's case numbers soaring by more than 20,000, yet another single-day record as the infection rate accelerates. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi is hailing India's response a success, saying the country's death rate is vastly lower than the US and the hardest-hit European countries.
In the Indian capital, medical workers go door to door, trying to trace the spread of the virus in order to set up containment zones. In a country home to 1.3 billion people, India is currently fourth on the list of worst-hit countries in the pandemic. All available resources are being used. In Andhra Pradesh, an excavator carries away the body of a COVID-19 victim. The impact is widespread, but Delhi is bearing the brunt. Rising infections and fatalities, plus a shortage of places to care for the sick.
We expected an increase in cases, but it's been higher than we initially thought. In the first week of June, there was a shortage of beds in hospitals. Some people didn't get a bed, and as a result, the death rate also increased.
After another record spike in infections, the Prime Minister addressed a virtual meeting of Indian American doctors in the US. Comparing India to some European nations and the United States, Narendra Modi is spruiking his country's success, and he credits the now lifted nationwide lockdown. The Indian leader stressing that his country's death rate is comparatively low. He says India is witnessing around 12 fatalities per million people, compared to 350 deaths per million in the US and the worst affected European countries, up to 600 coronavirus deaths per million people.
Many countries in Europe combine to make the population of India. So we are a very populous country, and therefore in absolute number we will have a large number of cases. But if we are able to keep the mortality down, then that will be a big success as far as India is concerned.
Delhi already has more than 77,000 cases. That's projected to rise to 500,000 by the end of next month.
Today what we're doing is for the future. We don't want to live in the illusion that corona is under control. We're prepared to do more projects than we're currently doing.
What that involves and whether it will work remains to be seen. It's been just 3 weeks since India emerged from one of the world's strictest lockdowns. Virginia Langerberg, SBS World News.
And as India continues to battle the virus, it's also contending with its worst locust plague in decades. Desert locusts have swarmed the city of Gurgaon, a financial hub bordering the capital, New Delhi. The invasion prompted authorities to advise residents to shut their windows and bang utensils to ward off the insects. Pilots at the nearby Delhi International Airport have been warned to take extra precautions during landing and takeoff. The pests could pose a major threat to summer crops. Coming up next, could unemployment benefits be set to rise permanently following the pandemic? How some international students are being taken advantage of during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And today, we unite for our future.
And entertainers join world leaders to raise funds for the fight against COVID-19.
Tonight at 7:30, Top 10 Treasures of Pompeii. Then we'll take you on a royal mystery tour as we uncover the disappearance of a Scottish prince from the pages of history in Henry IX, the Lost King.
Join me, Rose McManus, for Australia's first ever televised life drawing class with nude models, amateur artists and a bunch of special guests. Watch or draw along from home. It doesn't matter if you're a passionate Picasso or a stick figure specialist. All you need is pencil, paper and a little artistic license. It's a masterpiece.
Life Drawing Live, Saturday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
On now at Harvey Norman, get 20% off Microsoft Surface Pro 7, Pro X and Laptop 3. Like this Surface Pro 7 i3 128GB, now $999, saving you $250. Or this Surface Laptop 3 with the latest Intel i5 processor, now $1,359, savings $340. With 60 months interest-free available, don't miss out. Get 20% off Microsoft Surface Pro 7, Pro X and Laptop 3. On now at Harvey Norman.
Don't wait for them to tell you. With Drontal, you can treat your dog for intestinal worms with a single chew. Drontal, trusted and proven to kill more intestinal parasites.
Finding impartial, unbiased reviews and advice these days gets more and more difficult.
What I love about Choice is its fact-based information and insights that allow you to make good choices.
If I ever need to buy a product, I can just compare them so easily.
Choice's rigorous testing means that I don't have to.
I trust Choice because they are independent,
advocating on consumers' behalf.
And they're authentic.
That's why I'm a member of Choice.
Now's a great time to sort your health cover with NIB. Join any combined hospital and extras cover online by June 30 and you'll get a virtual Visa e-gift card valued up to $400. Join NIB today. It's worth it.
I believe we have detected evidence of extraterrestrial life. I'm trying to keep us alive.
War of the Worlds starts Thursday 9th of July on SBS and on demand.
When you hear this chime, it means the SBS program you've started has audio description capabilities that can be turned on.
Michael Patillo hails down an approaching train.
Audio description fills in the gaps for people who are blind or vision impaired, so everyone can enjoy the full story.
Lisa Wilkinson looks down in wonder at her family tree.
That's amazing.
To find out more, head to sbs.com.au/audio description.
The federal government has played down speculation it will permanently increase welfare payments for the unemployed beyond the September cut-off of additional coronavirus support measures. The Social Services Minister dismissing reports it's considering a $75 a week rise to the dole payment, despite growing pressure to lock in a long-term increase.
Amid mounting unemployment forced by the coronavirus pandemic, speculation of a permanent increase to job seeker payments quickly shot down by the minister responsible.
It's factually incorrect, and right now my focus, as the whole government's focus is on, is to help Australians.
After News Limited reported the government is considering a $75 a week increase to the baseline rate, citing senior government ministers. The opposition accusing the government of sending mixed messages to those out of work.
This is cruel. People are afraid and worried about their future.
The number of people on the job seeker payment has almost doubled to at least 1.4 million during the pandemic. But with the $550 fortnightly coronavirus supplement to boost this payment due to expire in September, welfare and business groups are increasing pressure for a permanent increase to the welfare payment.
We cannot go back to the brutality of trying to live on just $40 a day.
They need to have more money so they can get through the crisis themselves, to be motivated and focused on getting a job.
More than 6,000 further job cuts at Qantas this week has added to expectations of extended economic pain facing those out of work.
This is the most vital bit of sticky tape holding the Australian economy together at the moment. Our unemployment benefits are working harder for Australia than they have ever done at a moment when we need them most.
Treasury has conducted a review of both the job seeker and job keeper wage subsidy, but the findings won't be released by Treasurer Josh Frydenberg until mid-July.
We don't know what the new normal is going to be, and so right now we're focused on making sure we're helping people through it.
The government has long rejected a permanent increase to the welfare benefit, previously known as Newstart, but those calling for the boost say it's needed now more than ever. Tom Stainer, SBS World News.
New South Wales Labor leader Jodie McKay has confirmed her party will take steps to suspend MP Sharkhet Mossel-Main from state parliament, a day after the Berejiklian government said it would do the same. Mr Mossel-Main has already been suspended from the Labor Party following raids on his office and homes. under the nation's first investigation under new foreign interference laws. Ms McKay said the party will move to suspend him from the state's upper house when state parliament resumes in August. Confirming any further steps to expel the Labor MP permanently will depend on the outcome of the ASIO probe.
Only Mr Mosselman knows the extent of this investigation, and I would hope that as the investigation proceeds, that is something that is being actively considered by him.
Mr Mosselman, that's the message in a new campaign launched by New South Wales Police and the
have access to the vaccine as and when they need it to protect their communities.
We small islands know only firsthand that definitions and criteria that exclude us cannot work.
Worldwide, about a dozen potential COVID-19 vaccines are in the early stages of testing. Brazil, the biggest coronavirus...
...go without having to self-isolate when they get back. It also opens up Britain to welcome foreign tourists from those listed countries. Under a traffic light system, only arrivals from red countries will still have to quarantine. But there are signs that it's come too late to save this summer. A random sample of shoppers in Kingston found little appetite for a last-minute break.
Yeah, it's too late for this year now. Wait till next year.
We'll leave it this year. It'll be a staycation. We'll see how it goes, but I think foreign travel will be too much hassle and too much of a risk.
Well, I work for the NHS, so I'm also conscious of trying to protect the health service and the kind of pressure on the system. So, yes, similarly, I think we'll stay at home, probably continue to self-isolate and stay in this country for the time being.
The list of green and amber countries is still being finalised and will change if there's an increase in the COVID-19 infection rate. But for the travel and hospitality industry, it's a breakthrough.
Most UK travel shops remain shut, but online bookings and inquiries rose sharply following the government's quarantine announcement. And several tour operators reported it was their busiest Saturday ever.
I think there are two things that will definitely be happening, which is, first of all, competitive pricing. If you are trying to attract new business, you don't put your prices up very high. So that's one thing. There'll be a lot of good deals around, and that's not just our members, travel agents and tour operators. There's also overseas hotels be very keen on getting Brits back again. And I've also seen announcements by certain governments, for example, the Italian one, that they're going to encourage hotels, bars and restaurants, etc., to stay open later in the season.
European Union diplomats are also considering this weekend whether to relax the current restrictions on travellers entering the EU's external borders. An announcement on that is also expected early next week. For many, though, 2020 will be the year of the staycation.
Voters across Poland are casting their ballots in a tightly contested presidential election that could have a big impact on the country's relationship with the European Union. Incumbent President Andrzej Duda's nationalist-focused campaign and backing from the Conservative ruling party has raised concerns from some that Poland is eroding its democratic foundations. His main opponent is centrist Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, who promises to provide a progressive alternative and soothe long-standing Polish tensions with the EU. The election has been delayed by 7 weeks due to the coronavirus pandemic. Well, France has emerged from months of coronavirus lockdown to begin voting in a delayed second round of municipal elections. Opinion polls are suggesting French President Emmanuel Macron's party faces defeat, with a recession looming as well as political discontent.
Polling stations open across France 3 months after criticism of the French president for going ahead with the first vote, just before imposing one of Europe's strictest lockdowns. This round, authorities and voters aren't taking any chances.
On fera attention, je veux dire. On peut toujours emmener le stylo, avoir le masque et puis mettre du gel, parce que...
The handling of the crisis is seen as a test for France's Prime Minister, Edouard Philippe, who's wanting to turn strong national approval ratings into local support in the city of Le Havre. His running mate, campaigning in the city's fish market, is hopeful.
During the first round of voting in March, we had the wind against us. The pension reforms were going on and there were protests against them. But now the Prime Minister has carefully managed the coronavirus crisis. It feels as if we have the wind behind us.
But in front of him, France is facing one of Europe's worst recessions, already affecting jobs at the local level.
The problem is he won't be here.
Some people think he will use his power and work for us from above, but I don't think his government is helping the little people.
The French president is considering a new post-COVID prime minister, but he needs centre-right votes, and the prime minister is both popular and centre-right. In Paris, some worry the left is being shut out. Mr Macron's party is struggling to connect at the local level, the mayoral race in the balance.
The French people are quite pessimistic and they like to criticise, but I'm confident that at the end they will recognise that a lot of work had been done.
Sitting Socialist Mayor Anne Hidalgo casting her vote early on Sunday, on track for a comfortable win.
She was really an advocate for the Parisians during this crisis. And when we decided to go out of lockdown, she was the first one to be the advocate of that too.
Now, as locals emerge into the streets and the polling booths, Mr Macron's hopes of building grassroots support 2 years out from his next presidential bid appears to be falling short. Christine Carney, SBS World News.
Police in Scotland have named the man shot dead by police officers during a knife attack in Glasgow yesterday as 28-year-old Sudanese man Badreddin Abdallah Adam. 6 people were stabbed at a hotel in the city centre before the attacker was shot dead. The hotel was being used to house asylum seekers during the coronavirus pandemic. 3 of the injured were asylum seekers, 2 were hotel staff and 1 was a police officer who remains in a critical but stable condition. Police say they're not treating the incident as terrorism. Ireland has a new unprecedented coalition government. For the first time, rivals Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have agreed to govern together. The nation's new Taoiseach, or Prime Minister, promising the social, economic and cultural recovery from COVID-19 will be his government's first priority.
After 3 decades in Parliament and 4 jobs in the Cabinet, Micheál Martin has reached the pinnacle of politics in Ireland. Amidst the celebrations, there was a very visible reminder of his immediate challenge. Politicians met in socially distanced format and away from their usual debating chamber to formally approve the new government. The head of the coalition said its priority was to deal with the social and economic havoc caused by COVID-19.
Recovery and renewal. These are the themes which underpin everything in the programme for government, which has been agreed between Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Green Party, and has been ratified by our members with overwhelming majorities.
Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have dominated governments here in Dublin for almost a century, but never before have they gone into coalition together. They grew out of the 2 sides in the Irish Civil War in the 1920s, and their historical rivalry has been intense. They're both parties broadly of the political centre, but Fine Gael has tended to be slightly to the right of Fianna Fáil. The Fine Gael leader, Leo Varadkar, has stood down as Taoiseach to be the Deputy Prime Minister. But under the deal, he'll swap positions with Mr Martin and be Taoiseach again in 2.5 years' time.
This is a historic occasion. I believe civil war politics ended a long time ago in our country, but today civil war politics ends in our Parliament.
In another big change, Sinn Féin, led by Mary Lou McDonald, is now the main opposition party here. This country's facing a second pressing international issue besides the coronavirus. As the UK's close neighbour, it'll be hugely affected by the Brexit trade talks. Micheál Martin's leading an unprecedented coalition for uncertain times.
Media analysts say Facebook's advertising revenue, a staggering $70 billion last year, is unlikely to feel the sting of a growing advertising boycott. Facebook says it'll start flagging more posts that break its rules ahead of the US election in November. Critics have accused it of failing to act on hate speech, prompting some of the world's biggest advertisers to pull their promotions.
When the US president suggested protesters against racism and police brutality were thugs and said that when the looting starts, the shooting starts, Twitter put a warning on it, saying it glorifies violence. Facebook did nothing. Its CEO Mark Zuckerberg has often argued that the platform should take a hands-off approach. But now that's changing, and it will tag posts that break its rules.
If we determine
the content may lead to violence or deprive people of their right to vote, we're going to take that content down, no matter who says it.
Social media platforms have been under the spotlight as global outrage grows against racism and discrimination, sparked by the police killing of George Floyd in May.
But by them not focusing on the importance of truth and evidence and verifiability, they're sort of contributing to a whole lot of these sorts of very underhanded and very dangerous information campaigns.
On Friday, two of the world's biggest advertisers, Coca-Cola and Unilever, pulled their promotions from the platform. Unilever's also removing content from Twitter and Instagram until the end of the year. More than 100 companies have joined a campaign called Stop Hate for Profit, which accuses Facebook of not doing enough to combat hate speech. The campaign said in a statement, "Faced with this tidal wave, Mark Zuckerberg responded today with a small number of small changes. We've been down this road before. They've made apologies in the past." One of those apologies was in 2018, when Zuckerberg was called to testify in Congress over his company's handling of user data and how it was exploited to meddle in the 2016 US election.
We didn't take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a big mistake.
While Facebook's shares dropped 8% on Friday, analysts believe this controversy won't hurt the social media giant in the long run.
They are the total power in the media field. Last year, even amid the criticism, which is very similar to what you're seeing this week, their advertising revenues last year, 2019, went up something like 27% to nearly $70 billion US. So Zuckerberg knows that he's the king of the hill, he's the gatekeeper.
With the November presidential vote just 4 months away, Facebook has already taken down a video posted by Donald Trump's re-election campaign. And the president's lashed out at social media platforms' efforts, accusing them of censoring conservative views.
The federal government is providing a $10 million boost to online safety after seeing a rise in cyberbullying during the coronavirus pandemic. A report from Australia's e-Safety Commissioner found internet traffic has increased by around 70% during daytime hours. 4 in 10 Australians reporting a negative online experience during the first few months of the pandemic. Cyber Safety Minister Paul Fletcher says the funding boost will increase access to online safety support.
A small proportion of human interactions online are bad ones, as offline interactions are. That's why the e-Safety Commissioner is there to support Australians who've been the victim of cyberbullying, unauthorised sharing of intimate images and so on.
The report indicated the increase in internet usage may remain after the pandemic is over, as people get used to doing key tasks online. A gunman has killed one person and injured another in the US state of Kentucky as an anti-racism protest turned deadly. Demonstrators had gathered in Jefferson Square Park to protest against the police killing of a black woman, Breonna Taylor, in March. A male victim died at the scene after the gunman fired several shots into the crowd. A second victim was found in the neighbouring Hall of Justice soon after with non-life-threatening injuries. No arrests have been made. It's been labelled an historic moment for African democracy. Malawi's opposition leader has won the rerun of the nation's presidential election with just under 59% of the vote. It makes Lazarus Chakwera the first African opposition leader to win power in a court-ordered rerun.
By the time Lazarus Chakwera was declared the winner of Malawi's presidential election rerun, many Malawians already knew from early unofficial results that he would be their next president. What they wanted to know was exactly how much he had won by.
Lazarus Chakwera, the candidate who has attained 58.57% of the votes, has attained the requisite majority of electorate as appearing in the second schedule and is duly elected as President of the Republic of Malawi.
A few hours before Chakwera was declared the winner, President Peter Mutharika said there had been voting irregularities, including violence and intimidation against his party election monitors.
Sadly, as all minds have seen, this election is the worst in Malawi's history of our elections. Our monitors were beaten, hacked, abducted and intimidated so that they should not participate in the voting observation process.
In February, Malawi's judiciary overturned Mutharika's victory, saying there was evidence of vote tampering. That's why Malawians voted again in a rerun of the polls last Tuesday. Analysts say the result is unprecedented on the African continent.
It's not just rare, it's unique in the African context. We've never had an election annulled and then the result to be different than what the first round, which was annulled, that result was. So this is really the court stepping in to say that the elections were not run properly, and then the Electoral Commission returning a different result in the rerun.
Chakwera, the president-elect, is promising to fight corruption and create jobs. After he is sworn into office, Malawi, a country of roughly 18 million people, will be watching him closely to see what kind of leader he's going to be.
Well, coming up next, the unique discovery made by an amateur fossil hunter. Also on a high, local grassroots numbers set to soar ahead of the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute finance thanks to Western Union. Easy international money transfers.
Pompeii. I'm going to try to piece together the lives of the women and men who lived here by investigating some of the treasures that they created. Prepare to be blown away. I am completely in awe of this art. The last time this was held was close on 2,000 years ago. It's almost identical.
Top 10 Treasures of Pompeii. Tonight, 7:30 on SBS and on demand.
For 43 years of my life, I was in a cult.
Finding our place in the world.
My skin criminalises me.
And fitting in.
I even tried to pick up Australian accent.
Inside, Tuesday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
We complete 25 money transfers every second around the world. Send money from our app, website, or in store. Simple, easy and convenient. Choose the trusted network for your money transfers. Choose Western Union. Download the Western Union app today.
The Amazon mid-year sale ends Tuesday. Get in quick to save on great deals across electronics, fashion, homewares and more. Plus, you'll get free delivery on eligible orders over $39. Shop amazon.com.au. Easy as.
If you're worried about your actions or relationship, contact Men's Line for free confidential advice and counselling, online and by phone 24/7. There's no place for abuse or domestic violence. Help is here. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
4 out of 5 people who are blind don't need to be. A simple $25 surgery can restore sight. Please donate today to help carry on Fred's vision.
Every eye is an eye.
More than ever, it's important to keep up with the world's headlines. And as news gets better here, you can send money to your loved ones when they need it most, leaving you to get the whole story. Western Union. Easy international money transfers.
Any messages for me? J'ai lu.
You're an enemy?
No, I'm an informer.
Da dove viene l'articolo?
Non si sa ancora. Sweet dreams, Mr. Bernard.
In a brand new series, take an unprecedented look at those fighting for permanent residency.
Are we going to win? I don't know.
Who Gets to Stay in Australia starts Wednesday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
A fossil believed to be 460 million years old has been found in Central Australia. Discovered in the Amadeus Basin, it could prove to be a significant discovery and also become a tourist attraction as the region struggles to recover from coronavirus restrictions.
The Amadeus Basin stretches over 170,000 square kilometres in the Northern Territory and also extends into Western Australia. It's desert country, but was completely submerged in seawater millions of years ago. This is where amateur fossil hunter Patrick Nelson made what could be a major discovery.
It's only a little thing, it's quite weathered, probably about 3 centimetres long, and you could easily have just walked by it and not even noticed it. But I guess I was on the lookout. I was on the prowl for whatever was out there, and there it was.
Mr. Nelson isn't revealing the exact location of the fossil find in the hope of preserving the scientific integrity of the site.
We wouldn't want that field disturbed unnecessarily by souvenir hunters or people with commercial interests that could sort of just mess it up a bit.
The fossil is believed to be the missing link in a species of arthropod or insect-like creature that lived in the area when it was underwater. It's been taken from the site where it was found to an archaeological museum in Alice Springs for scientific analysis.
So it would actually fill in this big gap, and it's a significant gap because it charts the change from a particular group of arthropods that was living in the sea to them moving into fresh water and then onto land.
So we've got the head up here, then you've got your body and tail.
It's hoped that the fossil will prove to be a draw card for tourists as borders in the Northern Territory begin to open up and coronavirus restrictions are eased.
Going into the future, could be putting together a temporary display that will display this and other important new fossils.
Mr. Nelson hoping this won't be the last of his discoveries. Anita Bole, SBS World News.
Conservation groups have welcomed a record land purchase for a new national park. The New South Wales government has acquired Narriera Station in the state's far northwest, the single largest purchase of private land for conservation in the state's history. The area includes nationally significant wetlands that are home to more than 25 threatened species, including the endangered grey grass wren. The Brisbane Lions have secured a third straight victory to move equal second on the AFL ladder. The Adelaide Crows remain winless after 4 rounds. Elsewhere, Geelong scraped past Melbourne. Last night, Carlton upset Essendon, while the Suns also prevailed. Today, the Lions led by 40 points at half-time at the Gabba. Adelaide kicked 4 unanswered goals in the third term. However, it was Brisbane's Zach Bailey who put the hosts back on track. Meantime, several Suns and Fremantle players could be facing hefty fines after a heated exchange broke out at half-time. The Gold Coast's 18-year-old sensation Matt Rowell starring in his side's 13-point win. The Sharks have overturned one of the poorest records in the NRL after thumping Manly. It was just Cronulla's third win over the Sea Eagles in 12 years. Last night, Parramatta squeezed past the Raiders while the Broncos' woes continued. Manly were missing the services of Tom Trbojevic and Dylan Walker. The Sharks led at the break and never looked back, Cronulla running in 7 tries. The Eels overcame the loss of Mitchell Moses to defeat last season's grand finalists. In a tight affair, Clint Gutherson's Golden Point field goal in the end proved the difference. Harrying. It's the club's third semi-final appearance in the past 5 seasons. Scott McLaughlin has taken out 2 races at the Supercars' first round in more than 100 days in Sydney. The Ford driver dominated today's second race from pole, making it 3 wins in the COVID-19 affected season. Earlier, Holden's Nick Percat won his first Supercars race since 2016. Australia's successful 2023 Women's World Cup hosting victory alongside New Zealand continues to resonate with clubs right around the country. And one side in northwestern Sydney believes the tournament will act as the biggest catalyst the women's game has ever seen.
There was a spring in the step at training today as the joy of Australia and New Zealand's hosting success continues.
Yes, good job. Play, Ruby. Full hit.
It will allow these girls to watch their role models battle for a World Cup on home soil.
It will mean a lot to everyone who loves the Matildas, especially everyone in this team.
Already a hugely popular sport, Football Federation Australia estimates an additional 150,000 more girls will play football in the lead up to 2023. By 2027, it expects as many girls as boys will play the world game. Women's football in Australia was already well placed before the successful World Cup bid was announced, but now it's all set to go to another level.
It's going to bring so many opportunities to really highlight all the different aspects of football in Australia and all the different players from diverse backgrounds.
It will help funding, and it will just help give young girls, firstly role models, but also have maybe the opportunity in the future to make a full-time career out of football.
Matilda's star Chloe Lagazo used to play at the same club as these hopefuls. It gives equal emphasis to men's and women's football.
I remember as playing like this age and Chloe would come and make an appearance at sessions.
The ultimate goal remains one day lining up for the Matildas, but football's increasingly gender equal approach is appreciated.
It's just been great that everyone's come together to help the women out and to get this milestone of the first World Cup.
And that success is fueling these girls' dreams.
I love shooting because it's just so fun when you see the other team's face, and it's just like a great feeling. I definitely hope to play for one. It's part of one of my dreams.
Dreaming just as big as the Matildas will be in 3 years' time. John Baldock, SBS World News.
Coming up, the weather details, and with the borders closed for international travel, a taste of the African savannah right here in Australia.
Pompeii. I'm going to try to piece together the lives of the women and men who lived here by investigating some of the treasures that they created.
Top 10 Treasures of Pompeii. Next on SBS.
The Tour de France, it's a sporting event like no other.
He's the king!
And now we wind back the clock and relive the moments that have shaped this beautiful race.
Etape Classic continues tonight on SBS and on demand.
It's back, the ultimate cheesy garlic bread sub. Make your favourite sub inside hot, cheesy garlic bread. Give in to the ultimate cheesy garlic bread sub. Give in to fresh, give in to Subway.
My best piece of advice for consumers is...
don't buy it if you don't need it.
Do your homework. There's a lot of information out there. Some of it's not very good.
read your instruction manuals.
Think hard about what you do and don't need. Realise that there are a lot of people out there who are trying to sell you something you don't need. And seek out those independent voices. Choice is one of those.
Become a Choice member. We can save you so much money, we can save you time, and we can save you heartache.
Oh baby, baby, feed me. Baby, feed me. Oh, feed me.
Time powerless to resist.
At Coles, we're helping lower the cost of dinner with Coles brand Aussie Fresh RSPCA approved chicken portions with a delicious herb sprinkle. Down to just $6.50 a kilo. Save $1.30 a kilo. For the perfect easy meal, add some Coles roasting vegetables with garlic and rosemary. Now just $3.50. Save $1. For more easy meal solutions and great ways to save like these, sign up for the Coles digital catalogue at coles.com.au. Coles, good things, great value.
Is that yours?
No. Happy birthday.
Actually. Get your kids their first phone at Optus. Visit us in-store today.
It's the end of financial year.
The end of a huge deal store-wide at Bingley.
From TVs to technology.
To fridges, washers and much more.
The Bingley end of financial year sale. Last days.
What is it about the human body that has inspired artists throughout the ages? Join me, Rove McManus, for Australia's first ever televised life drawing class with nude models, amateur artists and a bunch of special guests. Watch or draw along from home. All you need is pencil, paper and a little artistic licence.
Life Drawing Live, Saturday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
To the weather forecast now, and a trough and a front crossing southwest Western Australia is generating heavy showers and gusty winds. A large high over the east is directing moist onshore winds, triggering light showers across parts of Queensland, New South Wales and southern Tasmania. Inland areas should be mostly clear. To the major centres, sunshine ahead for Adelaide and Darwin, partly cloudy skies in Brisbane, Canberra and Hobart. Possible storms ahead and showers for Perth, a shower or two for Sydney. Morning fog and frost in Melbourne. Further afield, windy conditions for Auckland and Wellington. Some showers ahead for Samoa and Noumea. Thunderstorms for Nadi. To Southeast Asia now, thunderstorms for Bangkok, cloudy skies in Denpasar and Jakarta, showers ahead for Phnom Penh, Singapore and Honiara. Further north, thunderstorms in Beijing, partly cloudy skies in Hong Kong, showers in Manila and Shanghai, all clear in Seoul. Heading west, fine in Baghdad, Jerusalem and Tehran, drizzle ahead for Delhi and Mumbai, showers in Islamabad. To Europe, clear skies for Athens, Madrid and Moscow, partly cloudy in Istanbul and London, showers to soak Stockholm. In Africa, showers in Addis Ababa and Lagos, lighter rainfall for Nairobi, partly cloudy in Dakar, clear skies for Johannesburg. In South America, thunderstorms ahead for Asunción and Panama City, showers in Bogotá and Buenos Aires, cloudy in Rio. For North America now, fine and sunny for New York, showers for Mexico City and Havana, partly cloudy in Vancouver. Lions have made a welcome return to Sydney's Taronga Zoo for the first time in 5 years. Brothers Sawazi and Ato are the star attractions of the new African Savannah Precinct, which today opened. Lions are now extinct in 27 African countries, and the new habitat will play a role in crucial breeding programs. Other residents of the new precinct include giraffes and zebras living side by side, fennec foxes and meerkats. Returning to our earlier story now on former High Court Justice Dyson Heydon, and we'd like to issue a clarification that Attorney General Christian Porter has asked his department to investigate fresh allegations of sexual harassment against Mr Heydon. Recapping our top stories now, and Victoria has opened mandatory COVID-19 testing for all returned overseas travellers in quarantine. Health authorities will also start taking less invasive saliva swabs to encourage more people to come forward for testing. Despite the spike in Victoria, Australia's Deputy Chief Medical Officer says there is no second wave of COVID-19. It comes as the country recorded 53 new cases. The United States has passed 2 staggering milestones as its coronavirus cases surge. The country now has in excess of 2.5 million confirmed cases and 125,000 deaths. And scientists believe a 460 million-year-old fossil found in Central Australia could become both a significant discovery and a tourist attraction. That is the world this Sunday. If you missed any of tonight's bulletin, you can always catch up on the SBS News website shortly. And a reminder, you can also watch the bulletin live there or on our app. But I'll be back with news updates throughout the evening here on SBS. For now, from the team, good night.
Pompeii, a unique ancient Roman city trapped in time by the cataclysmic eruption of Mount Vesuvius.
In the space of a single day and night, close on 2,000 years ago, this whole place was devastated by what has to be one of the most infamous volcanic eruptions in the whole of human history.
It was horrific. A tragedy.
But it also preserved one of the most astonishing treasures from the ancient world. So I'm exploring the ruins of Pompeii to find 10 of the most remarkable wonders to survive the carnage.
Oh, it's unbearable. It's unbearable to see it. Look at that. From hidden, neglected stories.
If these walls could talk, oh my goodness.
And pleasure palaces of the Roman elite.
Prepare to be blown away.
To the tragic last moments of the victims of Vesuvius's eruption.
Really